Well, Rob, I guess the most open-ended question I can ask you is, why do you want to be a congressman?
Well, because this district has been underserved for far too long, and right now, out of 435 districts in the entire country, ours is the only one without a voice in Congress. We don't have representation. And I really think we've been a forgotten district for far too long. And this is a chance for us to put someone in this position who understands exactly what we need, and that is job creation and to revitalize this economy. And as a small business owner, I'm very confident that I've got the background that the district needs right now.
Can you identify the top problem that this district faces right now?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to have a congressman who understands what it means to actually hire and start a job, and to utilize basic principles such as sticking to a budget and what it means to bring somebody on and to make tough decisions, as well as to meet a payroll. And those are sacrifices that we don't have in Congress today. They frankly, they're full of bickering and partisanship, and it's not getting us anywhere. And in my professional career, I've been pretty successful at getting people to come to the table. Though they have different views and ideas, we come to the table, we find consensus, and we move forward, we make progress, and that's what we need in this district.
But you're not running for an executive branch position, you're running for the legislative branch. So how do those skills, running a budget, running a business, hiring somebody, translate into the legislative side?
Well, certainly when you're part of 435 members, you've got to find ways to communicate and to find cooperation with your fellow members. You're right, it's not a position where one person dictates. And that's why it's important that this district has someone who firmly represents their views, who's a strong voice, a good listener, and someone that also the district finds understands what's going on back here and will fight in Congress to make sure Oregon is looked after, because I don't believe we have been.
If you identify job creation as one of the areas that is needed in this district, can you identify the top solution for this district?
I think there are several solutions. First of all, we have to recognize that there's a lot of disconnect in this country and in this particular district. A lot of fighting back and forth, and that hasn't gotten us very far. We need someone who can bring ideas together and let people know that though we may not agree on every issue, we all agree on the end result we're looking for, and that is we want people to get back to work. We want people to be able to pay their mortgage and pay for the education of their kids and grandkids and be able to retire when they wanted to retire. So those are the top priorities. We do that through simplifying the tax code, eliminating loopholes that only mega corporations get to take advantage of, make sure that our regulations are reasonable and not over the top, and make sure also that we look at what our assets are here locally and we maximize those assets to create jobs.
When you say make regulations reasonable, do you mean a reduction in regulations?
I think any reasonable person would say right now we've gone over the top with regulations. It's a bipartisan recognition. And even the president has said that we need to pull back certain regulations in certain industries. And here in Oregon, I think we've seen a depression of some industries because of this overregulation. And it doesn't mean that we stop playing by the rules. It simply means that we let the American people and the people in Oregon do what they do best while following the rules.
In this primary campaign, you've been criticized by your primary opponents as not being conservative enough. Do you feel like you need to establish that you're a conservative to the Republican base?
Well, I think name-calling and labeling is exactly what's wrong with politics today. And that's why someone like me, who's not been groomed to be a politician, needs to stand up and run. And that's why I'm getting so much support. People aren't really concerned about, where you sit as far as a label or a title. They just want to know, what can you do? What results will you bring to the district?
Well, let's get rid of the name-calling then and ask a question about substance and policy. In this primary campaign, are you trying to shore up your conservative credentials, or are you looking ahead to the general election where you'll have to appeal to those who are not Republicans?
My supporters, both now and in the past, know where I stand on issues. They know that I'm a principled person. And just because I have principles doesn't mean that I won't listen to what the other side has to say. And it doesn't mean that I bend on those principles, but we may have to find ways to work cooperatively to change policy and practices. So I'm very confident in the philosophies that I've been raised in, what's helped me throughout my adult life, and what I think Oregon needs right now. And as more people are getting word of our message, which admittedly they may not have been in the past, they're understanding this is the kind of person we need representing us.
I know you're a Republican. Do you identify yourself as a conservative?
yes, I'm a fiscally conservative Republican. Everyone has their own views as far as social issues, but this election is about the economy. This election is about job creation.
Let me ask you about the Occupy movement. I want your interpretation. What are you getting from that?
Well, from what I understand, I've always viewed any citizen who wants to express their opinion, as long as they are abiding by the law, as long as they're not infringing on other people's rights, as long as they're not creating difficulties for a community, they certainly have the prerogative to let their voice be heard. And what we're seeing right now in this occupation movement, it's just a manifestation of the frustration, in fact, the anger that people have with what's going on in Washington, D.C. And I think if we send more people to Washington, D.C., who've come from the political hierarchy, if you will, who've been groomed to be in office, we're just going to get more of the same. And that's going to increase the frustration that citizens have today.
Is that what you take, just frustration, just a generic frustration, or do you take anything more from what they're doing?
Well, they want jobs. They want a sustainable future. They don't want just temporary, part-time, seasonal jobs. They want real careers. And in my business and in my career, we've been creating long-term careers for people all over the country. And certainly here in Oregon, hundreds of people have gotten jobs through the work that we've done. And that's what I want to do as a congressman, is help people get to that end result.
A lot of the message is about social justice, taxing the rich. I've heard some talk about wealth redistribution. How does that strike you? Does that have any influence on your opinions?
I think people just want a simplification of the tax policy. Right now, it's so unpredictable. It's so difficult to figure out. It's costly to figure out. And as a result, small businesses, which do the vast majority of the hiring in Oregon, they're sitting on their hands, and thus we have people largely in Oregon that are unemployed. And so if we can create a business environment, an economic environment where entrepreneurs want to risk again, where people want to invest in Oregon, we're going to have people that are currently demonstrating back to work. And that's the end game.
Two more questions for you. The first, how much of an influence does the Tea Party have at this point?
Well, I think the Tea Party has influence around the country, and certainly in this district, in that they are activists. They're citizens who've decided to get off the proverbial couch and pay attention to what their elected officials are doing and hold them accountable and create more transparency. And so I think any movement that participates in that, any movement that encourages that kind of responsibility from citizens, is something that we should not demonize, but rather we should ask all citizens to pay closer attention.
Would you identify yourself as a Tea Party member?
I don't know what a Tea Party member is unless you're asking, am I someone that came off the couch and decided to get involved in office? Yes, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to throw my shoe at the TV anymore. I'm not going to murmur under my words when I read the newspaper. I'm actually going to do something. And this is why I left my business and have decided to run for Congress, because we need people with my kind of background in Congress today. I think we'll be making better decisions. We'll provide a better future for our kids.
But if asked, are you a member of the Tea Party, you would say what?
You did ask me if I'm a member of the Tea Party, and I said I don't really know what the Tea Party means. It doesn't. There's not. You don't carry a card around. It just means are you someone who's more involved in the process, paying more attention to public policy, and I certainly am.
The last question for you, looking ahead to the general election, this race will pit yourself, who's already run once, against some Democrat. Do you feel like the Republicans have a good shot in this particular election to take the seat?
Absolutely I do, because it's not so much about party in this particular election, it's about results. Which candidate has the best skill set, the best temperament, the best ideas to drive this district forward and to be a real champion for this district, because we haven't had an advocate for years coming out of the 1st District of Oregon. And so when voters compare these candidates, if they'll put aside the letter next to our name and just look at the person, I'm confident they're going to make a choice that will send me to Congress to represent them.
Does anything stand out to you about the Democratic primary right now?
Frankly, it just sounds like more of the same. It sounds like the same type of ideas, policies, rhetoric that we've had for far too long, and look where that's gotten us. We're an empty seat right now in Congress.